Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar, Build Real AI Agent in Less Than 1 Hour. I'm Emilio, and today we will walk you through building AI agents in KNIME with no code, just logic. Together with me today, there is also going to be Lada, another data scientist, again in the education team at KNIME. She will join us in the second part of this webinar. The agenda for today. It is a webinar meant for beginners, so people that don't know KNIME, that are just moving the first steps into the agentic realms. But if you are a little bit more advanced, don't worry, there's going to be something to learn for you as well. We will start from the basics, so we will introduce KNIME, and we will introduce the KNIME way to AI. And then we will jump right away into the follow-along part, where we will build together a first agent and build an invoice and discounting agent. And I will build it, and then you will have all the material to build it with me together. And then Lada will join us to show us two more advanced agents examples in KNIME, a research agent and a spreadsheet doctor agent. So without further ado, let's move into the first part, and let's explore the KNIME way to AI. For the ones of you that are completely new to KNIME and to KNIME Analytics platform, what is KNIME Analytics platform actually? The software that we will use today. It is a software that lets you make sense of your data, and it covers a wide variety of tasks all around data. So it's meant for data analysis, data science, and data engineering. And it will cover really everything from accessing a wide variety of data sources to transforming, to visualizing your data, create reporting, train machine learning models, and so on. The two things that you need to remember about KNIME Analytics platform is that it is open source, so you can download it for free and you can access the source code. And second, it is based on the visual programming paradigm, so no code is needed if you don't want to. Since it is based on the visual programming paradigm, everything is built with those little icons, let's say, that are called nodes. And every node is meant to perform a specific task. There are more than 4,000 nodes, so many tasks that you can build in KNIME. For example, the node table splitter, as you can imagine, splits a data table. So every node has an input table and then one or more output tables that get produced by that node. The node also has a status that always tells you if the node is executed correctly, if there was an error, if you need to configure it, and so on. Once you build together multiple nodes, you line them up basically, one after the other, then you build a workflow. So a workflow is just a program, let's say, in KNIME that is made up of multiple nodes executed one after the other. In KNIME, lately, we've also introduced, among all the other data science and data analytics tools, we've also introduced the possibility to include AI into your workflows. And there are many ways of including AI into the KNIME workflows. One of them is by creating simple LLM prompts. So you can prompt an LLM from a specific provider by including your text or even your data. You can even build more complex RAG architectures, so create your own vector stores, populating with your knowledge base, and then give the LLM the right information at the right time. Or what we will see together today, you can even build fully fledged agents, all within the KNIME environment. Some of you might wonder, so what is an agent? How does it look? And we will see it more specifically in a minute in the actual live example. But just to give you an idea, in KNIME, an agent is just a workflow with some specific nodes that is able, however, to access other nodes, other workflows, which are called tools. So an agent is meant to use all those tools, all those little workflows that all of them can solve a specific task. And it can orchestrate those tools dynamically to solve a wide variety of tasks. So a tool can be, for example, a tool that accesses your customer data, or a tool that is able to filter some data table, or a tool that, for example, is able to book a flight online. And then the agent has access to all those tools, and according to what the user asks it to do, then it will access one tool and then another to solve the task. The important thing to remember in KNIME is that we also added a data layer to those agentic framework, basically, so that your agent not only calls the tools, but can also send around specific data tables, your data table, to get them manipulated by the tools. So so you will see that also in the examples, we are not just doing prompting with the tools, but we're also sending and receiving data from the tools, which makes the KNIME agentic frameworks pretty interesting, and you will see it in the example. Agents in KNIME can produce and can receive an input and can produce data tables. The other important thing before we jump into the example is that to power those agents, you need an LLM behind it. And those LLMs are offered by multiple providers. Today, we will use, for example, an LLM from OpenAI, but there are multiple providers out there. For example, there is Azure, there is Claude from Anthropic, there is Gemini from Google, and so on. And with KNIME, we have a big number of nodes that let you connect to all those providers. So then you can change them in case you want to change provider or you want to change your model. You can do that with KNIME with ease. Important thing to notice here is that some of those providers are actually local providers. For example, Ollama or GPT-4All will let you execute a local LLM, which is pretty interesting if you want to maintain code slow or if you don't want to access a provider which is cloud-based for privacy reasons, for example. That's also possible in KNIME. So that was it for the introduction. Now it's time to do some follow along. So in the next minutes, I will build a workflow together with you, and then you can do it as I go, and then see how actually easy it is to build a simple agent in KNIME. For that, you need to get ready. So you need to have KNIME Analytics platform downloaded. Of course, you need to download the exercises and also get the API keys. There are going to be some links shared in the chat in a minute, so you can use those links to download KNIME Analytics platform, download the exercises from the hub, and then get the API keys. While you get all those links, if you haven't done it yet, I want to show you what we're going to build together. We're going to build an invoicing and discount agent. So it's a super simple agent that takes in input a data table like this one with an item, a list of items, list of quantity and unit price for all those items. And then the agent is basically able to calculate the discount applicable to that order, calculate the total order value, and then apply the discount which is applicable to the order. So it's very simple. It just does some simple calculations, but you will see that it's a nice entry point to the agentic framework in KNIME. So if you have access to the links now, you can click to the link to download the exercises, and it will bring you to this page, the events space on the hub, and then we can link to this icon here to actually download the webinar AI agents September 23rd folder. Then you click here, download, and this will save it in your download folder. Now we can open KNIME Analytics platform, which hopefully you have installed by now, and then click on this import workflows and select the file that you have just downloaded, webinar AI agents. Open, and this will create a new folder on your local space. Once you have the folder, you can double click on it, and then the other thing that you need to do at this point is to click install extensions. This will open our first workflow, and in here you don't need to do anything. It will just pop up a message to let you install all the extensions if you don't have them installed yet. So because some of the nodes are only available by some extensions that you need to install on top of the installation, so it will take just a couple of minutes to download and install those extensions, and then you can come back and actually close this workflow, go to exercise, and finally go to agent. And this is where we will actually start working together. So I will give you a couple of minutes to get things going and to install stuff. But in the meantime, I want to show you a little bit around the KNIME Analytics platform user interface and what does it mean to execute a node, what is the output of a node, etc. So for example, here in the agent, I have, let me zoom in, I have a list files folder node, which is already there, and it's already configured. It's already configured, and I can tell it from the little yellow icon that it has here at the bottom. Once a node is configured, so it already basically configured to do a specific task, I can click this play button, and now the node changes its status, and now it's executed. So the node has carried out that task it was configured from, and it has produced something in output. Where can I see that output? Here at the bottom. So the list file folders is a very specific node actually that lists all the files, all the workflows in a folder. And in this case, I get a list of tools, for example, here in the output. Then I can click this node here to reset the workflow execution and execute it again. This is one thing that you need to remember, those buttons to reset the execution and execute the node. Then the other thing that you need to know is that if you want to add more nodes to the workflow, you can just drag and drop this, and then you get a list of nodes already there, or you can go here to nodes and search for the nodes you're looking for. And we will use it in a minute. I hope all of you are already ready to get started with this follow along. So let's first of all authenticate to an LLM provider, and let's start building a super simple agent, which actually is not yet an agent. You will see it. So first of all, I need to authenticate to in this case OpenAI. That's what we will use. For that, you need to use the second link which I shared with you that will bring you to this spreadsheet. And in here, you have a user and a password. I see that a lot of you are already there. What you have to do at this point is to copy the username, go back to get API key, double click, and then paste the username. And same for the password. Here, copy paste. Click OK and execute. Sometimes this might be red. It means that there was an error. If there was an error, it means that most likely you have copied during the copy pasting process. You have copied also some trailing spaces. So make sure to delete them because otherwise it won't work. Yes, so it's better maybe to copy paste it on a notepad sometimes to make sure that you don't have those trailing spaces. Now that I have the get API key node executed, I need to connect to OpenAI in this case. For that, I need a node called OpenAI Authenticator. I can look for it in the node repository, and once I search for it, I can drag and drop it to my workflow. So now this node is added to my workflow, and all I need to do is to connect the API key to it and select that variable here in credentials, and then I can click apply and execute. This is another way to execute the node just faster. Click apply and execute. Remember to select credentials here, otherwise it won't be executed. And now I am authenticated in OpenAI with the credentials that we shared with you. Also remember, those credentials will be available for a little bit of time after the session, so no worries if you don't manage to do everything today, you still have a couple of days to play around with them. Now, I'm authenticated with OpenAI. Now I want to select an LLM. For that, I need to drag and drop the connection and click the OpenAI LLM selector node that will be added to my workflow. Now I can select from all the models that OpenAI offers, and let's keep the GPT 4.1 Nano for now. It's fine. I can click execute. Now that I have my LLM selected, I actually want to use it. I want to interact with it somehow. And for that, I can again drag and drop and select Agent Chat View, which is the node that we will use today to interact with the LLM. Now, what I can do is that I can execute this node and then click on the magnifier icon. This will open a new window from where I have a chat. And this chat is actually connecting me to the LLM that I have selected before. So I can interact with it like probably you've already done multiple times on ChatGPT or Claude online. So I can ask it, for example, what is the capital city of Germany? And then it will reply, the capital city is Berlin. And then I can ask some more in-depth questions. For example, what's the weather like over there today? And most probably it won't be able to reply because it's just an LLM. So it doesn't have the tools necessary to answer that question, right? It's just building up sentences according to the training data, but it's not going to be able to tell me what's the weather like there. This is really just connecting to the large language model. So to start transforming this LLM to an actual agent, I need to provide it with some tools. So some tools that will let him will make the LLM more powerful and will let the LLM execute some actual operations. For that, let's move to the bottom part. Let's scroll a little bit down. Here I have a tool list. This node is already configured because there is if you go to the Explorer, there is a tool folder where we already put the workflows that we're going to build now. And this is listing those three workflows, the get discount workflow, the apply discount, and the calculate total workflows that we now want to transform to tool to make available to the agent. So the first thing we need to do is to add workflows to tool node here, and then select the path variable, the path column here, path, apply and execute. And now you can see that from a path, so just a path to that workflow, I actually have a tool column containing more information about the tool. So if I now double click on the get discount, I get a description of that tool. For example, the get discount tool retrieves the maximum applicable discount percentage given the total value of the order. So this tool basically gets in input value, for example, 1,000, and then will tell me, okay, with an order of 1,000 euros, you can apply a discount of 7%, things like that. But this is actually what we're going to build now together. So let's go to the get discount workflow. Make sure to select the one in the exercises so you can build it together. And then here you can see that actually this is just the frame of the workflow, but we didn't put anything there because this is what we're going to build together now. The only thing that is there is the table creator node, which when you execute, you can see that as kind of a lookup table where you have a certain amount, low range and up range. And then for each range of value, you have an applicable discount. For example, for a value for a basket value between 500 and 999, then you can apply a discount of 5%. So let's build this tool in a way that it accepts in input value, for example, 575, and then it gives the correct discount. In this case, it will give 5. So the input or the configuration parameter, let's say, we can double click in here and add an integer configuration. This is the node that will let us configure the parameters of the tool. So basically all those parameters that the agent will set up when calling the tool. If we double click on the integer configuration now, we can give it a label, so a name for that parameter, in this case, total value, a description. So feel free to be descriptive there and say that this is the total value of the order, and then name for this variable, for example, total. We can even give it a default value, let's say 300. Let's click OK and execute that. And now what we want to do, we want to filter the value of this table to retrieve the correct range. So to retrieve, for example, for 300, we want to retrieve only this row because 300 is between 0 and 599. So for that, let's add a row filter node. And let's also add this parameter in here. This flow variable is called inline. And now we can add a filter criterion on that data table. Data table looks like this. So what I need to add is a filter criterion that checks the value against the low range and the up range. So what I can do is to click add filter criterion. The first one is going to be low range, less than or equal, and then click here, this icon, and select total. And then I can add the second filter criterion, where up range is greater than or equal, again, the total value. Now, if I click apply and execute, for a value of 300, it will retrieve the discount percentage of 0, because 300 is between 0 and 499. If I would change this default value to, for example, 3000, and then execute the node again, you will see that it will have a different range, the discount rate percentage of 15%. So we have filtered according to this parameter, and remember that this parameter will be set by the agent when calling this tool. So imagine that the agent calls this tool with a total value of 2,500. It will get here, and then the row filter will only select the specific row. Now we want to send back that information to the calling agent. So first of all, we need a column filter to only isolate the discount rate percentage. So put everything on the left and then keep discount rate percentage. This will exclude all the columns besides the discount rate percentage column. And then to actually send this information back to the calling agent, we will add a tool message output node. Here, there is nothing to be set. This node will just take everything that is inside this cell and send it back to the agent. And we will see how it looks in a minute. So if you've done all of this, the integer configuration, the row filter, remember with the value selected in here from the integer configuration, and the column filter also, you're good to go. You can click save, and then you can actually close this workflow. And now we can reset the workflow to tool and execute it again, so that it will have the latest version of the workflow that we have just updated. Now you can see that the get discount workflow also has the parameters in here, and if you double click, this is the total parameter. So this is what I wrote in the integer configuration before. Now let's provide the agent with this list of tools. So for that, we need to drag and drop again the connection inside the agent chat view. And this will pop up a little window where you can select tools. So this will add this list of tools. This will make this list of tools available to the calling agent. Now we can execute it again. And let's try to ask it, for example, what is the maximum discount applicable to an order of, I don't know, 2,000, like this. Let's copy paste it. And it says that it's using some tools, and the maximum discount applicable is 13%. How does it know it, actually? If we, here we need to select tools. So, yep. And also what you need to do here is to show the tool calls and results. So it will make more explicit what it's doing behind the hood. If you click now apply and execute, and then reopen the chat view, let's ask it the same thing. It's using some tools. This is the answer that it provided, but how does it know that information? Where does it take that information from? If you click here, you will see that the tool call was actually to the get discount workflow. So to the get discount tool that has been called, giving that number, so 2,890, giving that number in input. So the tool in this case works like a function, right? It has a parameter. The parameter is the total value. And then given that parameter, it gives you back an answer of the applicable discount. In this case, 13. If we ask it, and what about for 1,000, for 100, for example, then it will call it again. Now the discount is 0 because the total is 100. So it will just basically look up that information for us and then send it back. And that's what this tool does. This was a very, very simple tool. But as I was saying in the beginning, actually what we can add to the agent is a data layer. So we can ask the agent to actually manipulate our data and do something with our data. And that's actually super, super powerful. And let's do it actually together. I have a data table in here. If you scroll down, you have the table creator here containing a data table, again, with the list of items, the quantity, and the unit price. And let's say that I want to calculate the total value of this, but I don't want to do it myself. I want my agent to be able to do it. As you can see, the Workflow2 tool has already a calculate total tool, which calculates the total basket value, multiplies the price for the quantity, and calculates the sum. This tool is actually already there, so we can use it without having to developing it. The parameters are the price and the quantities, or the actual column containing those information. And what we can do, we can give this data table to the agent chat view. Once it's there, as an additional input, so just drag and drop it as an additional input, execute it, and then let me open it. And then we can ask it, for example, you have a list of items in input, calculate the total. Now, if it understood, it will do one tool call to the calculate total, giving it in input the actual data table that we have there. So the input parameter is the index of that data table, and then the tool has all the nodes already set up to basically do the multiplication and then the sum of my data table, and telling me that the actual total value of that order is 1,595. The last thing that we need to do, because this is not done, is to finish developing the apply discount tool. This tool, what it does actually is to applies the discount to the unit price of the products. So we have the data table that looks like, oops, lost it. Table looks like this with the quantity and the unit price. And let's say that we want to remove the 10% of all of them, basically. So we want to add a new column containing the discounted price. For that, we will go to Explorer again, go to the Apply Discount, and then set up together this tool. The particular thing about this tool is that it not only will have configuration nodes, so that is going to be the discount that we want to apply, but it also needs some input data table. So it will also have to receive the data table in input, apply the discount on all those entries, and then give a data table in output. Here, the table creator is just a placeholder, so this is just sample data that we can use during development. But to be able to send a table in input to a tool, we need to add a node that is called workflow input. Here, we can add a description saying that this is the data table with the order values, something like that. Apply and execute. And in this case, it will just take this example data, but as soon as it is called, it's called by an agent, then the agent can decide which table comes in here in input. So this is the table parameter, let's say. And then let's add a configuration, which is the discount. So the percentage that we want to, the percentage discount that we want to apply. For that, let's add, as we have done before, an integer configuration node. Put it here, and then double click, and we can add the label, which is the discount description, the discount percentage. To apply, give it name discount again. This is just the parameter that we will use, And then let's set a default value again of 20%, for example. And again, this is just default value, but it's going to be replaced as soon as this is called by the agent. So, okay. And now we want to apply that discount to all of those unit prices. And we can do that by using the expression node. So let's look for expression, put it there. Again, give this flow variable there so we can use it in the expression. And what we are writing here, it's super simple, so don't get scared. This is the low-code part of KNIME. What we want to do, we want to remove a certain percentage to the unit price. So click on expression and let's write unit price minus, then brackets, unit price times discount divided by 100. So this is, I'm just calculating in this case, the 20% of the unit price with this part, and then I'm removing it from the unit price. So I'm just removing the 10% from the unit price. And the formula looks like this. Take your time. If you are following along, take your time to actually write it. To append that, we want to append a new column containing that result, and let's call it discounted price. Click apply and execute. Now what it does, it will append a new column, again, discounted price, containing the unit price minus, in this case, the 20%. So for 40, it will be 32 and so on. Again, if I change that percentage, for example, to 10, and then I calculate it again, this is all parameterized. So now the discounted price is going to be, for 40, is going to be 36. So 40 minus the 10%, as you can imagine. So we have a column in our data table. We want to ship this data table back to the calling agent. So we want to output the data table. We want the tool to be able to output that data table. For that, let's add a workflow put. And again, here we can add the description. So the values, the items with the discounted price. And another thing that we can do to make our chat look nicer, we can actually display bar charts. We can display charts, but we can even display data tables within the chat. For that, we will add here a table view node. This node does nothing. It actually doesn't do any calculation, but it will display our input table, and you will see it in a minute how it looks in the chat. So once you are done with that, you have again to save it, and then you can close it. And now let's execute again this workflow to tool. It's important to reset it every time, so you have the latest version of the workflow. Execute it again. Now you can see the apply discount has gained some more icons. So now it has the parameters, the input, and the output. They appear here at the bottom. Now we can go to the agent chat view, execute it, execute it again, and then ask it, for example. Now it still has that data table in input. For example, apply the maximum discount to the order in input, and let's see if it understood the task. It did two tool calls. First, it got the discount. In this case, the discount for 3,000. I don't know why. And then it applied that 15% discount to the actual table. And as you can see, the table with the discounted amount gets displayed because there is that table view within the tool. So everything that is created inside the tool gets displayed in the output table. Actually, this is wrong, so we need to be a bit more specific. We need to tell it calculate the total, get the discount, and give me the discounted total. And now it will use once again the tools. hopefully starting with the, it will do 4 tool calls. Some of them failed, but apparently it still managed to do it, because what it did, it calculated the total with the parameters, with the correct parameters, and then it got the 10% discount. And now we can ask it, now give me the discounted total. That should be 1,400 something. See, counter after apply. No, it doesn't want to do it now. I don't know why. Maybe we need to restart it again. And let's see if that will work. Applicable, maximum applicable discount. Apply it and get me the total. Let's see. Well, maybe there is something wrong in the tools that we will need to fix somehow. Yeah, calculated the total, and then it got the discount, which is actually 10%. It was not 15, and then it applied that discount. So now I have my discounted values in here. Now actually I can say, okay, now calculate the total with the discounted price, and let's see if now we are luckier. Yeah, no, it's the good thing about doing live demo is that they don't always work. Maybe there is something to be fixed in the prompt. I wasn't super detailed in the descriptions, but what can we do? You can test it. You can test it on your own, and it should work most of the times. Maybe it's also the model to be changed. So I hope you were able to follow along. It was a lot of details. So no worries if you didn't manage to do everything. But just as a reminder, if you go to Explorer and then go to Solution, then here you have the already solved tools that actually works. I promise. So feel free to take your time after this webinar to play around with it and see how it works on your own. And without further ado, I would call Lada on stage, because she will enlighten us with some more inspiring examples. Some more inspiring examples. So stage is yours, Lada.
Thank you, Emilio, for showing us this example. And hello, everyone. I have 2 more examples to show, just to give you an idea what you can do with the agents in KNIME, how you can use them. I will not go through them as in detail as Emilio did, but they just supposed to give you some idea. And the first one that we have here is a so-called research agent that will help us to solve the problem that you already saw today earlier. So maybe you remember in the beginning, Emilio tried to ask an LLM about the weather in Berlin, and it didn't answer because, as Emilio already explained, it could only base an answer on the training data that is limited till some point in time in the past before the training of the model happened. So let's have a look at how we can build an agent that can, in real time, get some data from the web. Let me go to KNIME Analytics platform, and here I have an example of a small workflow, a research agent that has access to 2 tools. And maybe you already know, to get the data from the web, you can scrape the web pages or you can send API requests. And this is the difference between these 2 tools. One of them is scraping the data from the web page, and another one is sending an API request. It's up to you how universal or how specialized you want your tools to be. For example, you can build a tool that is can send an API request to any API or to a very specific one, the same with the web scraping. Here we built 2 tools. One of them is quite universal, the GET request one, and another one is quite specialized. So let's have a brief look at this GET request tool. And here, as you can see, what happens first, we let an agent to configure the URL to an API that it wants to use to answer our question. And then this tool will send the response of this API to an agent, and an agent can then look for an answer in this response. So the tool is quite universal in the sense that an agent will decide which API can help it answer our question, and then will come up with the URL that is needed for this API. On the other hand, the events retrieval tool, we made it quite specialized. So as you can see here in the beginning, we do not configure, or actually we do not let an agent configure the web page to parse, but we narrowed it down just to one page, KNIME events page. So let's have a look how to use this agent. And I actually prepared some prompts here so that you don't watch me type in for a long time. Let's try to get an answer to the weather question again. We'll check for constants because this is where we are, and we can then confirm whether this is working correctly. So it will think a little bit, and then we can check what it's doing. And it, as you can see, decided that it can use the OpenAI UI API. It doesn't require the API key. And then it can use the GET request tool, and it came up itself with the URL, which is great because otherwise you would need to go to the documentation of this API and search for the correct URL. And then the tool is sending a GET request and is sending the response of the GET request back to the agent. And then based on this response, it comes up with the answer. And I can confirm that this looks correct. It's quite cold here. So this is an example of how you can use an agent to send to get the data from the API requests. Let's also try to make it use our other tool that we have here, and this is the events retrieval tool. So while it's thinking, maybe let me quickly go to the KNIME events page so that we can also check that it is retrieving correct information. So I asked it about October 2025, and you can see in October 2025, we have Data Hop in Dallas, Data Connect in Bologna, some webinars, and also we are participating in a Life Science Congress. So I also specified that I want to have KNIME hosted events. So let's see what it will do. It decided to use this other tool, events retrieval tool, and then it collected this quite long response. We pre-processed it a little bit already in the tool, but not fully. So now it parses this XML response, and you can see that it returns the same events that we now saw on the page. It decided that some of them are not considered officially hosted, but you can see that it did manage to see all the events that are happening in October. Okay, so this is the first example that I had to show. And you can use, of course, this agent is a little bit focused on web search only, but the tools that I showed you here, you can use as part of the toolset available to other agents as well, whenever you need an agent to get some fresh data from the web. Okay, with that, let me go to the next example. And the next example is going to be about cleaning some data, and we called it Spreadsheet Doctor Agent. So what you've seen so far was how to build a tool, how to build an agent on a simple example, and also how to enhance the knowledge of an LLM with the web search. But if you already know KNIME, you know that it's really powerful with the data tasks. So the workflows can help you process your data, analyze your data, and many more. And also Emilio showed you that you can integrate AI into your data workflows. So why can't we just use an agent, AI agent, to orchestrate some data tasks for us to perform some, let's say, repetitive data cleaning and maybe some data analysis already? So here is an example of a spreadsheet that was probably downloaded from some system where many people provided some manual entries. From the first side, it's nice because it has colors and kind of so well structured, you could say. But if you try to work with it for analysis, you'll quickly understand it's not ready for analysis because the table is actually not in the right place. There are many, many different ways how people provided the values. This is, of course, very exaggerated spreadsheet, but let's try to get an agent to clean it. So let me go back to KNIME and show you the example of this agent. So this is my spreadsheet, the same that I showed you on the slide. And let's see which tools we have here. There are quite a few of them, and you'll notice that they perform quite simple operations. So for example, there is a tool to replace a column, to, for example, aggregate the rows, filter the rows, also some views like a table view, bar chart, and also the GET request, because maybe you want to convert currencies. So you can also use web search as a part of such agent. And an interesting one here is the intelligent expression. Why it is interesting? Because it is using an LLM also on the level of the tool. This can be useful for some tasks where you would otherwise need to create some rigid rules manually. So we'll see on the example how this can be helpful. Okay, so let's try to clean the spreadsheet using an agent. And again, I prepared some prompts here that I will copy to the prompt of the agent view. And while it's thinking, I'll explain what I wanted to do. So the first thing that I wanted to do is I want to get my table into the right place, right? You saw that it started from the third row and the column names actually were in one of the rows. So I'm asking it to rename the column names and remove the first 3 rows. So we can see what it's doing already here. And as Emilio already mentioned, that sometimes it can fail, and this is definitely fine because an agent decides which tool to use. Maybe sometimes it picks not the optimal one first. Sometimes maybe it will configure the parameters wrong first, and then it will try again. So as you can see, for the second time it worked. So it renamed the columns and also removed the first rows, and it's showing us this result here. And then let's try to actually fix some of these values here. So we fixed the table structure. Let's also fix the values, and I'll again just copy my prompt that I prepared. And here I also want to explain a system message a little bit. Let me fix this formatting. And also I'll explain in a second what table 2 means. So I'm asking it to fix 3 columns, the order ID, amount, and currency, because you see that they have some values that should be removed, and also standardized. So again, while it's thinking, let me show you the system message. So if you take the new node from the node repository, you'll see there is some default system message. We just added on a little bit here to tell the agent that it's supposed to process the data step by step, so that it's supposed to take the last table each time, but also, for example, show the view after each iteration. And now it's actually, okay, now it's complaining that it doesn't see the table 2. Let me try to explain what the table 2 is. So each time you process the data in the agent, it saves this processed data tables in the data repository, and they get this index. And I tried to ask it to use the table 2 now. I'm not sure why it doesn't understand now what the table 2 means. That worked the last time. So what I could alternatively try to do, I could ask it to do the same with the latest processed table. But yeah, with the LLMs, it sometimes doesn't go as you expected, and sometimes it's easier to just try it again. So let me just go ahead and try one more time. And yeah, although I already specified in the system message that I wanted to take the last table, sometimes it does not do it. So you can optimize the prompt probably to make it more specific, but here we are trying just some simple examples. So let's have a look at this table repository just one more time. Yeah, it does say table 2. Okay, so try one more time. Okay, so it really resists to understand what the table 2 means. I'll go ahead and try one last time, and if it doesn't work, I'll show you the backup slide that I prepared. And maybe for the next time I need to improve my prompts so that it understands better, but so I will ask it to use this processed table. And so what I wanted it to do next with this process table is I wanted it to remove the rows where the order ID is not aligned with the expected pattern. Also to fix the amount column so that it's standardized to the values that then can be converted to numbers. And also I asked it to fix the currency column so that we also have standard numbers. Okay, let's wait for a second for this first request to finish. We can also check what exactly it's doing. So it used the transformer tool to rename the columns. And then it's supposed to use the row filter tool to remove the rows that I asked it to remove. And now it's taking quite long for some reason. So I would say I will try it last time, but while it's thinking, I'll already show you the backup slide that I prepared. And maybe then if we have a second left, I can give it the last chance. Okay, so let me go to my backup slide. And so what I expected it to do first, this worked, as you could see, right, that it renamed the columns and also filtered these first 3 rows that were not belonging to this table, and it decided which tools to use and how to configure and then show the table. So what I wanted it to do next is to remove the order, the rows with the order ID that didn't have the proper order ID. So, and I gave it an example of how it should look like. And it came up with the idea to use the row filter, and then also came up with the a parameter of this regex that it can use, and then filter the rows. And then what I expected it to do, I expected it to use the intelligent expression tool that I showed you before, the one that is using LLM on the background. And this is really handy for these tasks like standardizing the columns with lots of different categories, where otherwise you'd need to create lots of rigid rules. So it came up with the prompt that it can send to an LLM, how to standardize this column. And also important is that it's using only this one column, so we are not sending the whole table to an LLM. And then it would do the same with the currency conversion column. So using an LLM to bring the currencies to the standard format. And this is how our table then would look like. It filtered some rows by row order ID, converted the amount where it was possible to numbers, and standardized the currency. So what we did with the first prompt, we fixed the table structure. With the second prompt, we cleaned the data. And also, as the last part, I wanted to already start with some data analysis. So I asked it to aggregate the data aggregate the data to calculate the total spent by customers who paid in euros, and then it filtered the rows only for orders in euros, and then aggregated the data and visualized it in the bar chart. Okay, so let me quickly go back, and I think we don't have time to actually make this work, but yeah, the workflows you can also find on KNIME Community Hub and try it out yourself. One important thing about this use case that I wanted to say is that we're not sending the data that could be potentially confidential to an LLM, and we are also not asking an LLM to do these data manipulations for us. An agent is actually orchestrating the tools to do the manipulation using these tools, which are essentially KNIME workflows that can perform the data tasks precisely and are auditable and are not a black box LLM. Yeah, I think with that we can take some questions, and maybe Emilio can come back here.
Thank you, Lada. Yeah, definitely. LLMs can be stubborn sometimes, so
especially when we have a live demo.
So they might benefit from some more robustness of the system prompts. But anyway, thank you for the demo. There were a few questions there in the chat. But first of all, I wanted to ask you to restate. I think you were touching a couple of times that, but I think it's important to get the message out there. So the agent is not able to see the data, right? So the agent is not doing the calculation itself.
Yeah.
How does that work? Why?
So if you're using the tools correctly, so you send in the data only via workflow input, workflow output, by default an LLM will not get access to your data, but the agent will just orchestrate these data transfers between different tools, and then your data is used by the tool but not by the LLM. And the same happens with the calculation. The calculation is then done by the tools but not by an LLM.
So it's KNIME taking
care
of
KNIME
the thing. Yes.
Taking care of data manipulation.
That's important because sometimes can be misleading. There was another question about actually my example, like why it is not clear why an agent is needed for the discount calculation. And yeah, I just want to re-say that this was just really an example. Of course, you can do it in other ways. Maybe sometimes you don't need an agent at all. So it's important to actually ask yourself, do I need this thing or not? So in this case, it was more.
Yeah, maybe just to add something about this spreadsheet doctor agent, why actually you need an agent there is because maybe next time you download this data from the system, there are new manual entries in new formats, and then you would need to, if you just built a workflow, you would need to adjust it for that. Or also you cannot reuse one workflow for other spreadsheets, but an agent you can reuse, right?
So yes, so when the task is dynamic,
yeah,
it makes sense to create an agent, but not.
Exactly.
No. Yes, there is a last one actually, because then we need to wrap it up. We can see that the agent is used inside KNIME. Can it be published somehow for other users through the web page or in another way? So can we kind of deploy or productionize the agent?
Yes, to deploy workflows and KNIME workflows in general, and also agentic applications, you can use KNIME Hub, our commercial software part, and for example, different plans that we have. You can use KNIME Business Hub if you're bigger company, or KNIME Community Hub plans, Teams plan, or upcoming Pro plan. And how does it work there? You deploy your workflow as a data app, and then it's available in a web browser, and you can share it, for example, via link.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question, for the answers.
Actually, thank you, everyone.
Yes. Should we wrap it up? Do we have
yes, let's wrap it up. We have a couple of slides to show.
Can we have the slides shared? Yes. There.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And just to summarize, today we tried to show you that it's very easy to integrate AI into your KNIME workflows, Gen AI, or also RAG architectures you can build in KNIME. And as as you saw, the focus of this webinar was to build agents. And if you want to learn more about how to do that, if this webinar was a little bit too fast or not detailed enough, you can also access our self-paced Getting Started free courses and learn more about how to integrate AI into your data workflows. And if you have any questions left, or if you need more materials in this platform where we are right now, you can go to Contact Us button, and then you'll find how to contact us, and you'll find the materials that you might find helpful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Emilio.
Thank you.
And hope to see you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.